said regarding now Sukkot, let's talk about Sukkot. That the meaning of the Sukkot holiday is a very deep meaning. It's something very, very special. Why is that? Because the Sukkot holiday basically is like a mirror reflection of what's going to be throughout the year. So a person is making his own judgment regarding that. He's making his own determination of what Sukkot is, what the whole year is going to be for him by the way he does Sukkot. That's the way it is, right? So it's an amazing thing, right? It's kind of like you're making your own destiny by making the way the Sukkot should be. That's your destiny for the whole year. So what does that mean? HaKadosh Baruch Hu did something amazing, right? Which was what? That He gave us in the Midbar, in the desert, when the Jews left Mitzrayim, He gave us something which is called Ananei Kavod. What does that mean? Clouds of glory, right? What is the clouds of glory? What is this business? So the truth is, right, that it means that there was, on each side of the Jewish camp, there was a clouds. And these clouds were like Shekhinah, the divine presence. That's what it was, So these clouds, which are the Shekhinah, divine presence, what they did was basically they gave the Jews a perfect environment to live in, without any, obstruction, right? Any discomfort, right? Any suffering, any problems with the weather, with the elements, with all kinds of animals, all kinds of wild animals attacking them. These clouds protected them from everything. It gave them 100% protection, total shield, right? 100% shield from all sides, right? So what does that mean? There's two opinions, by the way, in the Midrash Rabbah. One says that the clouds were from 5 directions, right? Meaning what? 4 directions this way, right? 4, and then 1 above, right? That was the right. That's one opinion. But then there's another opinion which says that what? That it really was from 7 directions, right? What does that mean? That there was also something below them as well. What does that mean? Right, but there was 2 things going on there, right? One is what? One thing which was going on down there was that if there was any ground which was not level, right? Too low, too high, you had to go down, ascend, descend, all kinds of. It would make everything even and straight. The whole path would be straightened out by these clouds. So there should be no discomfort the way they walk. They have to go down, they have to go up, sweat, this, perspire, all these things, right? They want to make it comfortable as possible.
It would level them out.
Can you imagine how much providence they had in those days, right? And the Jews that left Mitzrayim, they had 100% to comfort providence. And by the way, this also applies to their clothing as well. You know what it says, right? The Chazal. That the truth is, right, you have to ask a question. How is it that the Jews were in the desert for 40 years, wearing the same clothes? They don't even have a place to change and to bathe and all these things. They don't have like a regular life. So it's right. They say, right, that it was the providence was so strong that even their clothing was being laundered as it was on their body, and ironed, so it should be like nice and straight. Everything should be, beautiful and spiffy. Right? All this was done. The providence was very, very great in the times of the desert. And that's why, by the way, the Jews wanted to stay there, because, once they got used to that kind of lifestyle, first of all, it took them time to get used to it, because it was very, spiritual. It was, overly spiritual for them. They felt, overwhelmed by that. But once they got used to that spiritual life, so they said, wow, we don't want to even go to Israel. They didn't want to go to Israel, They just wanted to, stay in the desert, because it was so comfortable. It was, super, super comfortable, super luxurious, no luxury could compare to what they had over there. Can you imagine? Everything is automatic. Everything is automatic. Nothing. You don't have to do anything. Everything is provided for you. So it's a very, very easy life. So these clouds were the ones that provided this whole thing, right? There was also another cloud, which the job was, right, to weed out all the bad elements, right, that were there. Let's say all kinds of animals that came to attack them or whatever. All these kinds of things, because they're in the wilderness. There's animals there, predators. All kinds of things, right? So all these predators were being also kept away by the clouds. Besides that, by the way, there was also another thing. That the clouds of glory also provided protection from the enemies as well. What does that mean? And if the Gentiles, the non-Jews, would come to attack them, like it happened with Amalek, it happened with all these nations. So what happened was the clouds of glory would protect the Jews, and they were not able to get inside. They weren't able to get inside. So it was a shield. It was a total shield from the enemies as well. That's what it was. Amazing, right? That's why when Amalek, the first nation to attack them was Amalek. They're the ones who were the brazen ones, right? From Esav, they're from Esav. So Amalek came to attack them, but they were not able to attack the Jews. Why? Because they were in the clouds. So they weren't able to wage war with the Jews who were inside the clouds. So who were they wage war with? Only the Jews that were outside the clouds. Which Jews were outside the clouds? Right? We're talking about people like your friend Schumer, people like that. Why is that? Because those Jews, the Erev Rav, the ones who had sins, they were ejected from the clouds. If you did like a big sin, like we talked about last week, about those big sins, if you did one of those big sins, the clouds ejected you, became like an outcast. Got ejected from there. That's what happened, right? So that's, when they came to wage war against the Jews, they were able, only if you do tshuva.
But if you do, they'll just...
If you do tshuva, tshuva solves all the problems, as we said, right? Last week we talked about that. It solves you all the problems.
You would know if you did tshuva.
Huh?
You would know.
Yeah, you would know for sure. Yeah, no question about it. You're back inside, right?
It would just envelop you.
Yeah. So what happened was that these Jews who were ejected, they were like left with no protection.
No substance.
So the enemies would always come and attack them. That's the way it was. Automatically, they were the ones who were taking the big blows, right, from the enemies. So what happened was that basically when Amalek came to attack the Jews, they came to attack those people who were outside. And then what happened was that the Jews who were inside had a obligation to protect them also. So they had to go out of the clouds in order to wage the war. They had to leave. The Jews who were inside, Moshe Rabbeinu and all the camp over there, the 12 tribes, right? All those Jews.
They all had soldiers?
They were all soldiers, from 20 to 60, right? All the age of 20 to 60, they were all soldiers, these people. So they had to go out and fight the war against Amalek. They had to leave the clouds. But if they were staying inside the clouds, they didn't have to do nothing. They could just stay there and sit there and wait, I'm
sorry, are you saying that the Jewish people are militaristic people?
You see what he's asking? Yeah, we talked about this last week also, we talked about this, right? The way of Judaism is not to be a vigilante or, to be like a, karate guy or whatever, kung fu guy or whatever, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee. We're not into this kind of lifestyle, This is not our lifestyle. Why? Because the Pasuk says, right? Kol Yaakov, Yadan Yadei Esav. What does that mean? That we live by our voice, by our mouth. What does that mean? That the Torah that we learn and the prayers that we say, that's what protects us. But the non-Jews, they don't have all the merit of all these things. So what do? They use their fists, right? They use their sword. They use their guns, right? The automatic rifles, whatever, those things. Those.
AR-15s.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Those utensils, right? Now they're talking about that, right? To make it forbidden, to make it permitted, whatever. All these things. So the Jewish people, right, are not supposed to go with the sword. What does that mean? That on the one hand, we have to defend ourselves. If time comes to defend yourself, you have to defend yourself. But the truth is, right, that even if the Jews wage a war, like we do now, right, in Israel, we have wars. Every couple of years, something new happens over there, right? A new game, a new this, new battle, this, all these kinds of things. So the truth is, right, that even though the Jews have an army, and they have very good soldiers and everything, today we have like a very tough bunch of guys over there, very, very, very strong people,
They used to be tougher.
It's true. In the times of the Second Temple, they were even tougher. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, really? They were like with their bare hands. They were able to do to wage war.
Ben Zoman's time, right?
I'm sorry.
Ben Zoman's time.
In the times of the Second Temple, we're talking about Bar Kokhba, right? Of those times, right? Bar Kokhba and.
I heard they could take out a sapling with one hand.
Exactly. They were able to do. That's how strong they were. These were like mighty people. Cannot compare to what we are today, right? We don't have the physical strength that they had in those days. We're not even close, right? We're like made out of paper, We're paper tigers today, We're just like, we're a spineless jellyfish. That's what we are, compared to what they were in the old days. And by the way, you can even see, you don't have to go back so far. Go back like 2-3 generations, you already see that. Like, your grandfather, great-grandfather, they were much stronger than we are. Like these Georgian guys, the 2 generations ago, they were breaking walls with their fists. They're just going through a wall, bending like steel bars. These were like they were like invincible. These people, I couldn't mess with them. There was something else. It was a different.
Who was trying to do that when we were kids? Mamuka and Gocha in back of Misha and Moni Misha. You remember?
He's so funny. Right. So the truth is, right, that's the way it was. But anyway, what came back, we said, the clouds of glory were protecting the Jews. But the ones that were ejected, they were not getting any protection. So they had to go out and fight for them. That was the whole thing. So these clouds were so great. They made life perfectly comfortable, perfectly luxurious, right? More luxurious than any, of your toys that you have there. Those toys. That all these things, right? They're even more luxurious than those toys. So anyway, Rabbi, because of that, to commemorate this great miracle that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did for us, to give us the clouds of glory, this is why we do Sukkot. This is the reason why we do this holiday of Sukkot. To commemorate that, right? So what does that mean? That Sukkot is a very strange phenomenon, right? The Chazal described why is it so strange. The reason why it's so strange is because usually when a person goes out, to outdoors to eat, out there on the patio, whatever, we're talking about the summer usually. The summer months where it's nice and comfortable there, it's nice and sunny, and you can have your breakfast over there, pour your orange juice outside, and have a good time, scrambled eggs, some omelets, enjoy yourself over there. But the strange thing is we don't do that, right? We don't go out in the summer. When do we go out? We go out right when the rainy season starts, which is very strange. Why would you want to go outdoors when the fall, the winter is beginning, fall and winter, which is the rainy season? That doesn't make any sense. A person shouldn't be going out at that time. Should be going indoors. Just the opposite, right? Gathering all his, furniture, the outdoor furniture, and putting it in the garage or whatever, in the basement, whatever. And then he should be going eating it inside. And we like Jews, we're always going against the grain. Everything is against the grain, So they're coming inside now, and we're going outside. Just the opposite, right? We're always going against the grain. That's the way it is, right?
Just like Chuck Schumer.
So anyway, Rabbi, the story is like this, right? That the Kadosh Baruch Hu is telling us like this: the Sukkah is an amazing, amazing contraption. This thing. You may think it's just a booth. It's a booth with some, wood panels or some, whatever it is, right? A metal frame or a wood frame or whatever it is. And it's very flimsy and very weak, and some wind can come and just blow it all away. Some kind of that's the way it is. So why would you want to go out and live like that, when the rainy season starting? The fall and the winter is starting now. So the answer is, Rabbi, Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted us to demonstrate that even though now this is not the time to be outdoors, just the opposite, it's time to come in, we're going out there because He commanded us to do so, right? We're going against, why? Because we want to show that we're not doing it for our comfort or for our, for our pleasure, but because we're commanded to. That's the whole thing, right? That's why Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us this mitzvah at this time of year, where it's not comfortable really to be so much comfortable to be out there. That's the whole thing.
The celebration of Sukkot was because of the
clouds of glory, yeah. So
it's because of the 40 years that...
right, we had 40 years of clouds of glory, yes. That's the reason why.
I never knew that.
So the first year they entered Israel, after the wilderness, they started Sukkot. When was it instituted?
Oh, well, the truth is, right, that there's two opinions, by the way, what is the Sukkot. Some say it was clouds of glory, and some say they also made Sukkot mamash in the wilderness. So that also was, Sukkot. They made Sukkot.
Sukkot are tents.
Not tents. Tent is not a sukkah.
What's
We're talking about with a schach on top,
What's the translation sukkah?
A tent means it's like you have a cloth on top of you, right? But this is not a tent. This is a sukkah. That means you have a schach on top of you.
Were they living in those kind of? Were they living in those kind of shelters back then? Is that what they were living in?
Well, they were in the wilderness. They were like moving every couple of days. They were moving to a different location. This was not exactly like a home sweet home. You know what I'm saying? This was like right, exactly no man's land. But these clouds were protecting them. So Kadosh Baruch Hu now tells us like this. Listen, you have your year ahead of you now, right? You just had Rosh Hashanah. You had Yom Kippur. Hopefully you got a good judgment, right? But even if the judgment was not so good, let's say there were some things that you were judged for which are not so good, right? For instance, right, we talked about this inside before, right? We said, right, that let's say a person was judged that he's going to get sick and have to go to the hospital. That's like something which happens to a lot of us. Got to go to the hospital. Either you or maybe it's your parents or your whatever, or your child, or all these things, right? So it could be that there was decreed something like this on you. So the sukkah saved you from that. What does that mean? That a person says like this, right? The mentality is like this. If you go out now to the exile of the sukkah, which is not so comfortable at this time of year, so they're going to judge you like this. Because he went out to exile to do the mitzvah of sukkah, so we're going to save him from that unpleasant exile of going out and going to the hospital, going to the nursing home and going to these places, right, which are not pleasant to be there. You don't want to be in this place like this, right? Like in the police station, right? All these kinds of places, right? You know, you don't want to be there. You don't want to be in the FBI, right? With the Comey over there, you know, and what's his name? All those guys, right? You don't want to be there. You know how it is over there, right? They're gonna frame you on something. They're gonna get you on something, right? They're gonna get framed. So because of that, you want to make sure that you avoid all these places which are not pleasant to be in those places, right? So therefore, the way to do it is to go out in the sukkah. Because of the suffering that you exert by going out there, they save you from all the other things. And here, look at what you get, right? You get to be in the Shekhinah. Why? Because the schach that overhangs on the sukkah on you, the Shekhinah is there, right? The divine presence is there. So that's why a person should try to spend as much time as possible in the sukkah, on Sukkot. Not now, this is not the time to go on trips, you know, driving over there, upstate, downstate, this state, right, Connecticut, all kinds of places. What do you want over there? What are you looking for? Now you're going to drive here, now you're going to drive there, you can take a flight over there. All these places, the Shekhinah is not in these places. You know where the Shekhinah, divine presence? It's only in the sukkah.
Yeah, but isn't that supposed to be to go out and eat your meals in the sukkah?
Right, exactly, but not to, you know, because when you go on a trip, you know, let's say here and there. Yeah. So you don't have a sukkah with you sometimes. Most of the time you don't have a sukkah. So that means you're like taking away this mitzvah from you. You know, you're like rejecting the mitzvah by making it impossible.
If you decide to travel.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. So that's why it's recommended that a person on Sukkot, on the Sukkot holiday, should not now make this time to go here and there, you know, all these places, tourist attractions and all kinds of leisure places. You know, they like to, you know where they like to go, right? They like to go bowling, you know, they like to go bowl, you know, and this and then golf, miniature golf. You know, they like to do all these kinds of things with Sukkot. Where's the Shekhinah over there? Shekhinah is where are you going to be? The miniature golf, you're going to find it over there. Where are you going to bowling? You're going to find the Shekhinah.
I won a free game. I've never heard.
Hole in one.
There must be something to this because I've never heard of one incident where Sukkot got wiped out by a hurricane or like bad weather or something.
No, it happens. It happens, by the way. It happens. The Sukkot, you know, are very vulnerable to these things. You know, a strong wind can come, but you got to make it strong. You got to make it good. You know, but the point is, Rabotai, that a person is now signifying something amazing over here. This is signifying something incredible. Why? Because the schach is a Shekhinah, and that's protection, you know, on the Jewish people. The Shekhinah protects us, the divine presence protects us from all the elements, from all the enemies, all these things. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling you like this, right? Why do I tell you to sit under something so dilapidated like this, you know? Something so weak, so fragile, that a wind can come and just blow it away? Why did I tell you to do that? Because I want you to understand that your protection doesn't come from might and force, you know, and strong fortifications. It comes from the Shekhinah, from the divine presence.
Yeah, until it starts raining.
I want you to understand. I want you to understand that, right? That's the whole point. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too, with the raining also. We got to talk about that. It's good you reminded me.
It's the rain season.
We got to, exactly. So anyway, the point is, Rabotai, that a person is being protected by that, and that gives him protection for the whole year as well. What does that mean? Because he exerted himself to go out there for that 8 days, 9 days, whatever it is, right? Depends on where you live. You live in Israel, you live outside. So in Israel, it's 7 days. And here it's 8 days, right? That's what it is, yeah. So the point is, Rabotai, that we have to go out and do this mitzvah, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give us, right? It's like, you know, basically, you know what the parable is? It's like a person who got married, you know, he had a chuppah, whatever, you know, nisim, you know, we're talking about these things. So anyway, the point is like this, right? That when it goes into the chuppah, so then once he leaves the chuppah, you know, then he goes out and celebrates, you know, has Sheva Brachot. He goes to this guy's house, and this guy invites him. They go to this hall over here to make a big party, all these things, right? Why do they do that? You're celebrating the chuppah. So the same thing over here, right? By going to the sukkah, you're celebrating the judgment that you got this year in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Now you're making like a celebration out of it. So what does that mean? When you celebrate by exerting yourself to go out there, that means that you're taking away all the bad elements of the things that you were judged for that year by doing these mitzvot of the sukkah, right? So it's an amazing thing, right? It's an amazing zechut. Basically, by the way, the Chazal tell us that a person should try to do everything in the sukkah, like on Sukkot. You know, what does that mean? Whatever he does usually at home, you know, whatever it is that he does there, he should do now in the sukkah instead. Don't do it at home. Go out and do it over there. What does that mean? You want to stroll around in your house, let's say, like just walk around. Go do it in the sukkah. Walk around the sukkah. Very recommended, right? If you want to, you know, have a phone call, right, to talk to your friend, talk in the sukkah also. No problem. Take your phone out there. Talk in the sukkah. Don't talk in your house. Why? For what? Go talk in the sukkah, right? But just don't say lashon hara over there, right? Lashon hara, we don't want to say in the sukkah, right? We don't do sins in the sukkah. Say good things, say some good things. Whatever. Talk about bad things. So anyway, that's exactly what a person should do. Everything that he does usually at home, now try to do in the sukkah. And that's why a person, in order to fulfill this mitzvah, he has to have a sukkah. Because if he's relying on the sukkah of the shul, like, who's going to let him do over here? They're going to lock you up over here, right? They're going to say, oh, now we're locking, you got to go home, go home, like, get out of here. So you can't really live normally in the sukkah of the shul. You can't do that. They're going to throw you out every 2 hours here. They're going to be thrown over there, thrown out there. How are you going to live like that, right? So a person has to have, if a person has a place to make a sukkah, he's got a front yard, backyard, he's got a roof, he's got a balcony, right, without a cover, right? If it's covered, you can't do it, but if it's uncovered, so you should make the sukkah over there, try to make it, that's the whole point, right? Don't now say, oh, I don't have time for that, too expensive, and this and that. A person should now, take out the money, pull out the, go to the cash machine. This is the time now, right? Don't be cheap, right? Go to the cash machine, take out $500. If you can't make it yourself, bring some, Jewish guys. They do it for you. $500. They'll do the whole thing for you, right? From A to Z. They'll build it for you. They'll take it apart after the holiday, and they won't even leave it there. They'll take it everything. You won't have one thing left over there. Right, so no remnant will be left over. Very easy, very, very simple. What can be easier than that, right? They'll do it in 2 hours. The whole thing. In 2 hours, you'll have the whole sukkah already up and running. From A to Z. What can be better than that? So a person should try to do that. Why? Because if he doesn't have a sukkah in his home, how is he going to do all the mitzvot? How is he going to do all these things? It's not possible. So what does that mean? That you're... Yeah, we should try. Everybody should try. B'ezrat Hashem. So, B'ezrat Hashem, that's the way it should be. So, by the way, as we said, right, as we mentioned inside, the 2 most important mitzvot in the sukkah, which are obligatory, right? Obligatory. All these things that we said now are like recommended also. I'll try to do everything in the sukkah. But obligatory is 2 things, right? To eat there and to sleep there. That's 2 things, right? Eating there is not so hard, as long as it's not raining too hard, right? Whatever it is, it's not so hard, not so bad. Even if it's a little bit cold, you can put a jacket, you can put a sweater. What's the big deal, right? No big deal. So, what is it? But when it comes to sleeping, though, that mitzvah is a little bit hard to do. Right? Why is that? Because, as you know, right now, especially now here in America or in Europe, whatever, it gets cold, chilly at night over here. Right? In Israel, it's not so cold. You can sleep there like a baby. Believe me when I tell you. On Succot over there, it's like paradise. It's not really cold at all. It's one of the advantages of being in Israel, right? When you're in Israel, everything is more auspicious for doing mitzvot the proper way. That's one of them. So anyway, what time? A person has a hard time with that. Why? Because it's cold, it's windy, right? It's not stable, not so comfortable there. You got to take your bed out there. How are you going to get it out there? It doesn't fit through the wall, the door, whatever. All these things, there's all kinds of issues. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? I don't have enough space. The table is taking up the whole sukkah. I don't have to take place for a bed. Right? All these things. So a person should try to do it in a way which you can also do right. So what is the obligation of sleeping in the sukkah? The obligation is that even if a person is taking a nap a little bit, just putting his head down like this, even that he has to do in the sukkah. Can you imagine? He's required to do that in the sukkah as well. Take a little nap. Right? All the more so when he sleeps at night. But as we said, right, the truth is, we mentioned inside, that if it's very, very cold, or if it's, let's say, raining, like you said, right? So then he's not really obligated to sleep there, because he's not comfortable. In other words, you have to be in the sukkah just like you are in your home. Just like in your home, you're comfortable, right? Hopefully, you're comfortable at home. So you should be also comfortable in the sukkah, right? Why? How do we know that? Because it says, right, Tidoru, right? Tishvu ken tidoru. What does that mean? It says in the pasuk, in the verse, in the Bible, it says, right, that you have to dwell in the sukkah just like you dwell at home. Just like when you dwell at home, you should be comfortable. What does that mean? Let's say you're in your house, right? So let's say your house has several rooms, right? Usually that's the way it is. Most people don't live in a studio, right? So he's got several rooms over there. So if he's not comfortable in this room, he'll go in a different room, right? He'll sleep over there. Whenever something is wrong over here, there's making noise over there, whatever it is, he'll go and sleep in a different room. So same thing over there in the sukkah, right? If you're not comfortable there, and something is really bothering you, and you can't sleep, you can't really. So then you're not obligated to be there. That's for sure.
Can you build a sukkah with different rooms?
Why not? Sure. I have a friend who does that, by the way. I have a friend who's a rabbi in Israel, one of my good friends. What he does is he has a big porch, he has a big balcony, like a huge one, penthouse style kind of thing. So what he does is he makes like a living room, dining room, and bedrooms. Yeah. So the sleep chambers are separate, and they're covered like with a curtain, so you can't see it there. So it's like a beautiful, arrangement over there. That's the best way to do it, by the way. If a person has that much space, that's the way you should do it, right? Make it nice and cozy. This way you have a place to sleep. You don't have to move anything around. You have to move this, move that, because once you have to start moving things, it's not comfortable like that to live like that. It's not normal, So a person should try to in the sukkah, right, that he has to do, and everything in its own place, just like he does at home. Same thing he does at home.
You're supposed to spend essentially all 7 days inside the sukkah.
Exactly, that's what he should be doing, right? Unless, as we said, right, he's got to go out for some reason. Right? He cannot do, by the way, things which are not respectable in the sukkah. So if a person has to do things like that, he should leave the sukkah. Because the sukkah is a holy place. It's a place of the Shekhinah. Exactly.
Being with your wife.
Not only that, right? What about being with your wife, by the way? It's an interesting question. Right? This is a very good question. Right?
It was on a Friday, you got a pleasure.
Yeah. So what's halakha then, man? Are you as a person is allowed to sleep with his wife in the sukkah? And the answer is yes. It's a mitzvah.
Oh yeah.
But usually the women don't usually like to do that. That's something else, And they're not obligated, by the way.
Right.
The men are obligated. The women are not obligated. So therefore, you may have a hard time convincing your wife to sleep in the sukkah.
Just tell us one of your fantasies.
And by the way, don't try. don't try.
I'm just saying,
So don't try to force them, by the way, because it's not really, they're not obligated. There's no reason to push them into these things. There's no reason, take care of your own needs. Sometimes, sometimes you gotta split up with your wife, like for a couple of hours, here or there. It can't be like always stuck together, like glued together with your wife. Sometimes you gotta be a man. You go to the man to be a man. You gotta be a man. You gotta leave your wife sometimes. This is the time now, right? So when the sukkah, your wife is not going to want to be in the sukkah all the time. Maybe she'll eat there. She'll want to eat there a little bit, have a little meal there, whatever. Seudot, this kinds of thing. But she's not going to want to be there like 24 hours a day. So you gotta do what you gotta do. She knows that this is a mitzvah. They understand. Well, Jewish women are very smart. They know all these things, right? So they're not gonna get offended by that. So anyway, I'll tell you. By the way, this is a very interesting point, though. So what am I telling you? And there are some poskim like the Rabbi, right, who wrote they were living in Europe, in Poland, and places which are very cold climate. Right. So writes the Rabbi that nowadays he's talking with the Ashkenazim who are living in these cold climates. So he says over there the custom was not to sleep in the sukkah. Right? Why is that? So he tries to opine. He tries to theorize, right? What the reasons are that they don't do that anymore. So one of the reasons is two main reasons is like this, right? One is because it was very cold over there.
I get sick.
The cold was bitter. In Poland, places like this, Russia. Russia is like, what it is. Go live in Moscow. That's one thing, right? But there's also the other issue is that a person doesn't, as we said, right? Sometimes the women don't want to be there most of the time to sleep there. They don't want to sleep there. So because of that, they say, that since you can't be with your wife over there, so that also kind of exempts you. Why? Because, since you sleep with your wife all year round, so why should you not have to sleep alone?
Yeah.
That's the whole idea. So he tries to theorize all kinds of things, but that doesn't mean, by the way, even though he tries to justify the custom, but doesn't mean that we're exempt altogether. That's not really what it means. What it means to say is that if you have some conditions which are difficult, so then he is exempt. Like we said, it's very, very cold. It's too cold for him. He's gonna get a back. He's gonna get a back problem. You don't want to do all these kinds of things, right? You don't have to go that far. Or if it's very rainy, or let's say, for instance, right, another things like this, right? Let's say he has to be with his wife that night, right? And his wife doesn't go in the sukkah. So what do you do then? So you should be with her in the house.
Right. The obligation.
That's the way it should be.
Go to the movies.
Because you got to be practical in life. So what does that mean? That night you won't sleep in the sukkah. That's it. That's the way it is, right? But if you fell asleep, right, and then you woke up, so you can go back if your wife doesn't mind. If your wife doesn't mind, you can go back in the sukkah. Also, it's possible. Right. She doesn't bother her. Right, to go in a few hours in the sukkah, nothing wrong with that. So the point is, right, that a person should try to sleep there, as we said. And if a person does sleep there, it gives him a very, very, very great holiness, a very great sanctity. This whole thing. I'm telling you, it's a very big level of sanctity that a person gets from sleeping there. So a person shouldn't take it lightly. It's not a light thing to sleep in the sukkah. Very, very, very big mitzvah. Even though it's a little bit uncomfortable, in the end, I'll tell you something. From my experience, I tell you that once you put your body there, and just lie down and you go to sleep, you will feel great. Like after you wake up, you'll say, wow, like this is fantastic. Like, you're in the holiness, sleeping in a holy place like that. It's a very beautiful feeling. It's, nothing like that. But you just got to overcome that, that initial, fright, that initial anxiety. Once you overcome that, which is the Yetzer Hara, that's what we call that, right? We call it the Yetzer Hara. Once you overcome that Yetzer Hara, then it's fine. There's no problem. But that's only as we said, right? If he's able to do that. Sometimes it's not possible, as we said, all kinds of reasons. What can you do? It's not possible. But a person should try to make it possible, right? That's the whole thing, right? Try to make the conditions to make it possible for you to do this great mitzvah of sleeping in sukkah. Also, as we said, right, there's another thing which requires a sukkah, which is obligatory, which is the meals. What does that mean? That when a person has on Sukkot meals, that means that what? He has bread. More than an egg size, about 50 grams, 55 grams of bread, that requires to eat in the sukkah. If he's just eating something like meat and potatoes, he doesn't have to. Not required. He can eat it somewhere else. He can go to the restaurant. He can go to the house. He doesn't have to eat.
Business or you're at work, for example, and during Cholam, you have time to stay all day in the sukkah.
I'm sorry, what's that again?
If you're conducting business or you have to go outside or something.
What can you do? That's why, by the way, it's an important point that he brought up, which is what? The Chazal tried to tell us that a person should try to stay away from work on Sukkot. Right? Take a vacation. This should be your vacation. People, what they do is they take the vacation at the wrong time. They take a vacation because they want to go to Hawaii, whatever. They want to go somewhere and vacation over there. But there's no reason to be there according to the Torah. Just for fun, for leisure. But here, if you're taking a vacation on Sukkot and not working, so you're getting mitzvah also, not working on Sukkot, which is also the proper thing to do, by the way. Unless there's no choice. If there's no choice, and he has no other way, so he can work on Sukkot.
So
what does that mean there's no choice? That means that he doesn't have money, right, to live without that.
Right.
Or let's say they're going to fire him, he's going to get, the boss is going to fire him or something like that.
Let's say you have to eat over there at work.
Yeah.
Now what?
Oh, so what?
During the work hours.
Yeah, it's a good question. By the way, if there's a sukkah in the area, you should try to go, to the sukkah close to your work. In New York, you can find that pretty easily. Right. There's like a shul around every corner, You usually, like in Rigo Park, how many sukkah are you going to find? You're going to find at least 30, 40 sukkot over here, public places. You can just go in there, any time of the day, and just eat there, whatever you want to do, you can do. So a person should try to, if he's in a Jewish area, should try to do it, right? If he's not, so what should you do? Don't eat bread, right? Just eat, meat, potatoes, whatever, something like that, right? A salad, fruits, vegetables, things like this, drinks. These things don't require sukkah. That's the way it is, right?
So you get liquored up in the sukkah, right?
You can do it inside or outside, whatever you want.
You got liquored up.
Whichever way you want. That's fine, right? So a person has to have all the meals of Sukkot. What does that mean? When he has bread, more than egg size, has to eat in the sukkah. And also you have to make a bracha, right? Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, lishet b'sukkah. Just the bracha that you make, right? When you have a meal in the sukkah. That's the way. Every time you have a meal, a new bracha, right?
The first time you enter sukkah, you have to make a bracha? First time you enter one.
That, as we said, right, according to Talmud, the truth is every time you go in, you have to make. But now the custom is not like that because they were afraid that you're going to do it the wrong way. So because of that,
what if you still do it?
Not proper to do it. Try to be like, go with the flow.
Yeah. You're supposed to say a prayer for like everything.
Yeah, sure, that's something else. But we're talking about for the sukkah itself, right? Not for the food. Food is a different story.
You say Shechianu when you go in?
We say Shechianu on the first day of Sukkot, right? We here in New York 2 days. 2 days, right? Yes.
So we're going to say it's Sunday night and it's going to cover the whole Sukkot?
We're going to say Sunday night, we're going to do again Monday night also. When you say Kiddush, the second Kiddush, second day. There's also Kiddush on the second day.
2 Yom Tovim.
So yeah, two Yom Tovs. So we're going to make Shechianu both times on the Sukkot, right? And then during Chol HaMoed, we don't make Shechianu, right? Just we eat there without just make Leshe B'Sukkah. If you're having a meal, having a barbecue, we're having one over here. Everybody's invited. Come over here. It's good stuff. So try to come, but don't sit under the other side for the sukkah because over there's a tree there hanging over. Try to sit on this side if you can, because I'm not sure if it's. I'm sorry.
Did I announce when it's the barbecue?
They'll announce it. Ask Yasha. Yasha knows. Yasha knows everything. Yasha knows everything. So Rabotai, every meal requires also when you have mezonot, right? What does that mean? Cake, cookies, crackers, mezonot, things like this, right? Or kugel, which is made out of wheat.
Lakshin kugel.
Yeah, lakshin, right, exactly. Lakshin is a Yiddish word.
Right. That's the kugel also
Noodles,
Yiddish.
raisins, and cheese.
God bless. Very nice. So there's also Yerushalmi kugel, right? That you have like in Israel. They have more. Yerushalmi kugel, whatever it is. Anyway, if it's made out of macaroni or pasta, whatever it is, or wheat, whatever. So stuff like that, you have to also, if you're eating more than an egg size of that stuff, you got to eat in the sukkah also, right? But the difference is that when you eat more than egg size, you don't make l'sheh b'sukkah. You don't make the blessing on right. We don't make. By the way, the Ashkenazim they do. The Ashkenazim they make also for an egg size of mezonot. They make also l'sheh b'sukkah.
So do you make
we don't do that.
L'sheh b'sukkah before or after the bracha of the food?
I'm sorry?
So the bracha before or after saying, for example, mizanot?
The way it's done is like this, right?
Before you eat.
Exactly, before you eat, right. So the way it sounds like this, there's two customs, by the way, regarding this. Some have a custom to make first the bracha on the food, and then l'sheh b'sukkah. Some do it the other way around, right? First they do l'sheh b'sukkah, and then the bracha on the food.
Prayer after you're happy. Say it before you eat it. Because if it doesn't taste good, you should be happy that
Sounds good. Okay, sounds good to me.
So what do I do?
I'm sorry?
Do I make the bracha l'sheh b'sukkah before?
So the truth is, right, that the custom in most places is to make first the bracha on the food and then the l'sheh b'sukkah. But according to the Rambam, according to the Shulchan Aruch, it's the other way around, right? So really, the Sfardim do it like the way of the Rambam, more like that. But really, the truth is, even amongst many Sfardim, the custom is the other way around as well. That's what it says in the Shulchan Aruch.
What do the Rabbi?
So I don't know, do whatever you want. But be consistent. Don't do like every time different way, right? Pick one. And do it the way you you can do either way. Whatever you want to do. Some people say like this, some people say like that. It's fine. It's all fine. I particularly, by the way, I'll tell you something that when I learned the Shulchan Aruch regarding this. So it says in the Shulchan Aruch that the custom is to do first the bracha on the food and then the l'sheh b'sukkah, right? But the truth is that the halacha by the Sfardim is the other way around.
Okay.
Whatever. You're okay either way. Okay, don't worry about that. Right? You're fine. But just be consistent, right? Not like, wishy-washy. Sometimes like this, sometimes like that. You got to pick your way. So, anyway, Rabotai, the way it's done is like this, right? That when you, according to the Ashkenazim, even if you have one egg size, more than egg size of mezonot, like we said, right? Lakshan, whatever, all these things, you make l'sheh b'sukkah. The Sfardim, we don't make it unless you have 3 times that. 3 eggs, right? Then it's about 150 grams. Of mezonot. Then we make l'sheh b'sukkah. But if it's less than that, we don't make l'sheh b'sukkah. But you have to eat in the sukkah if you're eating more than an egg size, even for us. That's the way it is. Okay, remember. The question is what about rice? Right? Rice, by the way, is an interesting thing, right? Why is rice so interesting? What's the bracha on rice, by the way? When we make rice, what bracha we make? Mezonot, right? The truth is, right, in the Talmud, there's a machloket, two opinions over there. One says mezonot, one says hadama. Why hadama? Because it comes from the ground. It grows in the ground. Right? So then why do we make mezonot according to the other opinion? What's the reason why?
Because it's considered a grain. It grows like wheat.
A grain. Okay, that's interesting.
It still comes from the ground.
It comes, right.
Everything comes from the ground.
Right.
Okay, so then what's the story? The story is like this, right? By the way, halacha is that we make on it mezonot.
Right.
If it's cooked rice. If it's cooked.
Well, you're not going to eat it raw.
Some people have these, those Rice Krispies. That's not really the same thing. Right? It's like baked in the oven. That's a little bit different. So anyway, the point is, Rabotai, rice is very interesting. Why? Because on the one hand, it grows on the ground. So according to one opinion, it's hadama, but according to the other opinion, it's mezonot. So why mezonot? What's the reason to make mezonot on rice? Is it one of the 5 species of grain? No, it's not. What are the 5 species of grain that we have to make mezonot?
Wheat, barley, rye, oat.
Spelt. And what else?
Wheat, barley, oat, spelt, rye.
Right, that's it. Those 5. Right? Those are the 5 that we have to make mezonot. Why those 5 things? Because those 5 things satiate you. They satiate. So you can't really have a meal without eating those things because you don't really feel full. Like you don't really feel satisfied until you have a little bit of that stuff. Even though you had meat, you had potatoes, but it doesn't really give you that feeling without having some bread, some mezonot, something this kind of stuff. So that's why those things are more important than the other foods. But what about rice? Rice is not one of those 5. So then the truth is, right, according to the rules of halacha, there should be hadama the bracha on rice.
Right.
So why is it mezonot? So you know what the answer is? The answer is because rice, even though it's not one of the 5 species, on the one hand, But on the other hand, it does satiate though. It has the power of satiation.
Look at the Asians.
Yeah, right. They live on that stuff. Yeah, they live on that. Also, the Bukharians, the little Persians, they live on that stuff. We Georgians not so much. But you guys, you know, that's your diet.
It all turns into sugar, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. It's starch. It's all starch. Yeah. Okay, but anyway, the point is right that this rice, because it does have the power to satiate, so therefore we make mezonot. But since it's not part of the 5 species, right, that we mentioned, what's the final bracha that we make? It's not ala mechia, because ala mechia is only for those 5 species. Right. So then what final bracha we make on the rice? Borei nefashot, right? The short one. So why is that? Because it's not the part of the 5 species. So like rice is like somewhere in the middle. You understand? On the one hand, it's not one of the 5 species. On the other hand, it does satiate you. So therefore, we have like right in the middle. Rice is like a very interesting kind of food. So the question is like this, right? Because of this interesting quality of rice, bottom line, right? What does it require a sukkah or not? That's the question, right? That's the bottom line. So the answer is no. Since it's not part of the 5 species, so therefore a person can have like a nice meal with, some Chinese food with rice or some Persian food, whatever. Gobble it up, have a nice big meal. No bread, right? No mezonot, just rice and meat, right? Chicken, whatever it is, fish, whatever. And he's gonna eat that outside the sukkah. He can eat it right here, right? You can have it right here. You don't have to eat in the sukkah. So why is that? Because it's not part of the 5 species. That's the reason why. Even though it does satiate you. So a person who has this problem that you said, right? He needs to eat outside the sukkah. He went to work, whatever it is. So you should try to have some rice, or some potatoes. Right. This way he'll get filled up without eating bread. Without eating mezonot. That's the way it is, right? So therefore rice doesn't require. But the truth is, Rabbi, that even though most of the foods don't require sukkah to eat in the sukkah, only bread and mezonot, things like this, but it is praiseworthy to try to eat everything in the sukkah. Meaning what? If you have a sukkah right next to you, like here, the sukkah is right there. So, right, the sukkah is right here, right 10 feet away. So what am I going to do? Eat here the rice? No, I'm going to eat it over there. Unless something is wrong there. Something that is not. A person should always try to eat everything in the sukkah. Even to drink water, by the way, right? If the sukkah is right next to you. So go in the sukkah, drink the water in the sukkah. Why not? It's good. You're not required. You're not obligated. But if it's right there, why not? To get to do mitzvah of also eating everything in the sukkah. Why not? If it's possible, it's possible. But if in a case like that where you're working, things like this, you're far away from the sukkah. You don't have to go 100 meters to drink water in the sukkah. That's ridiculous. You have to know what you're doing. You can't be crazy like that, right? Because a person who's sometimes doing more important things like learning Torah, for instance. So what he's going to do is learn half hour of Torah. He's going to miss a half hour of Torah to drink the water in the sukkah. It's not, doesn't make any sense, right? You know how it is, right? So if a person has to, and by the way, regarding also learning Torah in the sukkah. So the truth is, right, that a person should try to learn Torah in the sukkah as well. We're going to try to do, by the way, lectures in the sukkah next week, right? It's good, very good. It's nice, Holiday spirit, get into the holiday spirit, right? We'll try. As long as we get the lights on, right? Get the lights on. Okay, so anyway, what is the halakha? A person should try to learn also Torah in the sukkah if he's studying. But there's one exception, right? Which is what? Sometimes a person can't learn in the sukkah so good. Mm-hmm. What's the reason why?
Comfort.
Distracted.
Right, yeah, the wind distracts him, or the flies, whatever, the mosquitoes. Something's bothering him over there. Or let's say he doesn't have his library there, doesn't have his books. So he has to keep going in and out all the time, They bring this book, bring that book, this book, that book. Makes you crazy. So a person like that, in a situation like that, a person doesn't need to be in the sukkah and learn the sukkah because of lack of concentration, because of a lack of all these things. He's lacking concentration, he's lacking comfort, where he cannot study there, with the proper But if a person is okay there, especially if he's just reading, not really going so deep into, there's different types of learning, by the way, Torah, There's Torah when you go like very deep into the learning. That's called like iyun. In Hebrew, that's what we call it iyun. What does that mean? You go deep, try to analyze, try to understand the depths of something. So there, sometimes you need like a quiet place with no wind, with no distractions. So sometimes you gotta leave a sukkah because of that. Because the sukkah is just a little bit too unstable, It's a little bit too shaky.
The environment.
It's shaky over there. So because of that, you need to get into like solid walls, whatever, So therefore a person should try to, if he can concentrate there, do over there. If it's difficult for you because of all these reasons that we mentioned, you can come inside the shul, you can learn in the shul, you can learn in your house, whatever it is that you usually learn, right? Whatever it is that you do.
When does it come in, Rabbi?
Sunday night.
Oh, Sunday night.
Yes.
It's the rain Tuesday.
Okay. It's sooner than you think, right? Sooner than you think.
You don't have to repark the car again.
Right. I got a ticket. What day?
Well, Monday is going to be Sukkot, and
Monday.
Tuesday is going to be Sukkot. So the first 2 days, the city.
So Sunday night is Erev.
Yes.
Is that it?
Erev, yes.
So Monday and Tuesday you don't have to move the car.
Yeah. We have this one time a year where all the Jewish holidays, the city suspends parking.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So
I love
you
it.
don't have to move the car for like a month.
That's the advantage of living in Jaime Town, you know. Okay, whatever. That's the advantage. Okay,
remember?
I remember
Said
that.
that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Son of a-
That, you know, Farrakhan's friend, you know, little friends. Yeah. Okay. So anyway,
By the way, I
Say
want you to
the
know.
nigger.
I want you to know how immune Obama was to anything, and how I don't know whether it was God's will or whatever. He was going to be president no matter what. When he was running, in front of the whole nation, in front of the whole world, he said, and this is what your friend Billy didn't believe, but it's actually on YouTube. I saw it live. When they asked him about Farrakhan, you know, because they knew that he had affiliate, he said, Mr. Farrakhan is a great man and a great leader. Can you imagine saying that about Farrakhan? and
Hitler.
becoming the president? Farrakhan would exterminate every white person given the power. Every white
Is he
person
black?
in this country.
I don't care about the Jews.
Given
They
the
don't
power.
give a shit.
And this is a man that called him a great man and a great leader. And he still became president. Can
okay.
you imagine how far this country went?
All right, that sounds good. Sounds interesting.
Right.
You have a point there.
And people like Chuck Schumer stood by, heard it, and still, you know,
Okay, then.
endorsed him.
So anyway, Rabotai,
90% of Jews endorsed him. Come on, man. That's
A
what
person-
I told the rabbi before you came. The Ashkenazi Jews never learned
I
it.
voted for
let's get
Trump.
back to the holiday spirit, David. Holiday spirit.
I voted for Trump, sir.
Holiday spirit. Let's take the happy mode. So anyway, Rabotai, as we said, right, all these things make the Sukkah a very, very special experience, right? A person can get from there great strength. They say, by the way, that it also protects you all throughout the year, that you sat there instead of going around and looking for all kinds of entertainment and leisure, all kinds of stuff like that. If you try to be there as much as possible, so Kadosh Baruch Hu will protect you all year because of that, and the Shekhinah, the divine presence will be with you all year round. It's an amazing thing, right? As we said right inside, that one of the most difficult things about the Sukkot holiday, right? Said the Gaon of Vilna, that this is the most difficult mitzvah of the Torah. Can you imagine? You know, some people tell you, right, keeping Shabbat is the most difficult thing, you know, all kinds of things like this, right? Keeping kosher, keeping this, keeping that. What's the most difficult thing? So it says the Gaon of Vilna, the most difficult thing is what it says about Sukkot, right? V'haita ach sameach, it says, right, in the pasuk. What does that mean? You should be only happy. Ach sameach, right? Now, what is the problem with that? The problem is that we're talking about 8 days in a row. They're telling you only be happy, you know, those 8 days, 9 days, whatever it is, right? So that's very hard. Why? Because a person has mood swings, you know. Sometimes you get into this kind of mood, you know, this kind of mood, melancholy mood, upset mood, right? A happy mood, you know, this
Except our president. He's always happy.
anxiety mood, right? All kinds of stuff. Because he's got a lot of money. That's something else. But money makes you happy.
It's his nature.
So let's see him if he's poor. He's going to be in nature like that.
Right.
I don't think so. I doubt it. So anyway, the point is, Rabotai, that a
A
person.
lot of very wealthy, miserable people.
By the, you know what it says in Pirkei Avot, by the way, regarding that? It says, right, Ezeu ashir asameach bechalko. What does that mean? Who is considered to be wealthy? It says in Pirkei Avot, whoever is happy with his lot. Whatever Kadosh Baruch Hu gave him, if he's happy with that, he's considered to be wealthy.
Absolutely.
Why? Because he's got everything he needs. He doesn't want any more, right? He's not looking for a Mercedes. He's not looking for a villa in what do you call it? Some kind of Florida house, house in Florida.
You don't need much.
He doesn't. Yeah, exactly. So a person, if he's happy with what he has, he's considered to be rich.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, right, you can have a person who's very wealthy, but he always wants more, so he's never happy, this guy. He's never satisfied, So it's like, so he's never, he's just never satisfied. Whatever he has, always wants 2 times more, 3 times more. Right? It's the greed, the greed can take away. The greed can take away, right? That's what it says, right, about being happiness. So being happiness it's a state of mind, basically. So what's the great thing about Sukkot, right? The great thing about Sukkot is that a person now, we separate the men from the boys. You know what I mean? What does that mean? By the way, this is also said in the Mishlei, right? In the Shlomo Melech, King Solomon says this about the person who's considered to be gibor?
Strong.
Right? Right. Who's really a gibor? Right? It says also in Pirkei Avot, Hamoshel berucho, the one who rules over his spirit. Who's a mighty person? Not a person who punches people out, goes out. That's not mighty. Mighty is a person who rules over his spirit. What does that mean? He can control his mood.
It's very difficult.
He doesn't get upset if he doesn't want to. He can stop it. He can block it.
The New World Order.
That's very difficult to do that. That's why the Vilna Gaon says, right, that this is the most difficult mitzvah in the Torah. Why is that? Because who can say, right, I'm going to be happy for 8 days in a row without 1 second of sadness? Who can say such a thing like that? This is a very hard mitzvah.
Who made
Can you
this
imagine
up?
how hard this is? Ach sameach. That's what it says in the Bible.
Who made this
It's
up?
the Bible. I can't tell you. It's God. V'haita ach sameach. V'samachta b'chagecha. It says, right, you shall rejoice in your holiday. V'haita ach sameach. Only happy. No screaming, no yelling, right? No upset, right? Whatever your daughter did, your son did, right, to make you nuts. Be happy. What do you?
By the way,
Yeah.
me and Jeff always talk about you, in particular, when it comes to very, very happy and positive guy. Even when we were
The Torah
growing up,
does
you
that.
remember?
The Torah does that.
No, you have it in your nature. I remember us growing up. You
I'm
couldn't
depressed
get
about
him
things,
down.
right? Let's say I'm upset.
You
I
couldn't
open the
get him
Torah.
down.
You study for half
You
an
see
hour.
what I'm saying?
David,
Yeah.
I have depression, whatever. Everybody has depression, right? Well, upset is that you're upset. You're sad. You don't want to deal with nothing. You open the Torah, 20 minutes. That's all you need. You feel you can. It's a sense of joy. It says in the Torah. The Torah makes you happy.
By the way, you should know.
Depends on what you're reading.
Doesn't matter what you're reading.
about,
I tested it. I'm telling you. It can be about anything.
He's right, but I want
swear.
to tell you something interesting, right? Regarding that the Torah. I want to tell you something really, really deep.
Force.
I want to tell you something really deep stuff right now. A person has to understand that, right? That the Torah has a very special power. You know what the power of the Torah is? That it amplifies and brings out what you really are.
It does.
In other words, it just like makes it like louder and more conspicuous. More. That's what it does.
It bathes you.
So if a person is not a good person, by nature, he's a bad guy, bad dude. There are some bad dudes. So a person is like that, the Torah will make him even worse.
No, it says that. It says that. It teaches you how to steal. The Torah teaches you how to steal. It says that.
I never even knew.
Why is that? You know why that is? Because the Torah is like it's a truth machine.
It's a force.
It's a lie detector. In other words, it feels what you are and it brings that out. It's like it just amplifies that. That's what it does. It reads your soul.
Only the truth will set you free.
Yeah. So that's what it does. You understand? So if a person is not good, he's not a good person by nature, the Torah will harm him. It harms him actually.
So are you telling me that Gocha's parents made a horrible mistake by sending him to Chavetz Chaim?
You see, I want to tell you something. I don't want to talk about the people in particular, but to stay away from politically correct, whatever.
It wasn't for him.
Being politically correct.
People thought back then if you send a child to yeshiva, it was going to make a.
Depends how much you learn.
I want to tell you, by the way,
a big thief. You said you can become a big criminal.
Yeah, right. That's also true.
That.
That's also true. But I'm telling you, I'm going on a different angle over here. You know what the angle is like this, right? Can you imagine? The Torah says something amazing. The sages say that the Torah can be an elixir of life. As we said, it's a source of all life. But it can also be poison, death poison, right? Deadly poison. That's what it says. Can you imagine such a thing as? So what does that mean? For a person who's a bad person, bad dude, for him, the Torah is deadly. It kills him. That's what it does.
Is that why we had the fights over here in the Georgian?
But wait, the Torah purifies everything. Even the worst people can be purified.
That's also true. I'll get to that too. Good, you reminded me. Good.
I'm afraid
Yeah.
to come to the Torah lectures now.
I said
don't know
that.
what's going.
You didn't hear what I just said. The Torah has power. You can do shua without studying Torah. It says that.
Yes,
You cannot do
yes,
shua.
yes,
You
yes,
can.
yes.
You think you can.
Yes,
You can't.
yes, true.
Unless you study, you cannot.
I want to tell you something how amazing the Torah is, right? That the Torah, when a person is really bad, let's say, like he's been, like, for instance, he's been away from the Torah, from all these things, all his life, became like a mafia guy, very dirty guy,
Criminal.
street punk, like one of these people, punk, So when he hears the Torah, it will anger him, and make him very upset. What are you talking about? He'll start yelling
He'll
at you.
challenge you.
Yeah, he'll challenge you. He'll yell at you, and he'll hate you also. He'll hate you. Yeah. Why is that? Because he's so far away from that. He's become so bad, that the truth of the Torah kills him. The truth hurts. You understand? It hurts. It can be very painful.
Reminds me of Billy. I heard the other day a Hasidic guy came over to do tefillin. Who did the tefillin? Somebody did the. Oh, he came over in the benches. We were sitting over there, and you know when they come over to you. Remember one chased Gocha like a mile, and Gocha threw tree branches at him. Anyway, he came over, and we have one of the gang. He's like 78 years old. He's going through some tough times like everybody. So he said, yes, I want to put it. And so Lee had it put on.
Oh, okay.
He did the prayer.
Yeah.
And Billy got up and ran away.
Why?
He said he found it disgusting.
I'm sorry.
That's it. That's it.
He said he found it disgusting.
That's it.
I said, why? What's wrong with it? It can't hurt.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, I hate those guys. And
That's it.
Because they hate the people in the black coats.
Right.
With the beard and the yarmulke.
But to be honest with
and
you,
the big black hat.
yeah. But to be honest with you, it's not the
Because
coat.
that's the Jew.
Yeah. But it's not the coat. It's what's inside that bothers
But
them.
that's the
When I was
Jew.
in
That's
Europe-
what they see. That's
When I was in
the
Europe,
Jew.
people told me, "You're not Jewish." I said, "What do you mean I'm not Jewish?" The Germans, the Austrians. What do you mean I'm not Jewish? I said, "No, you're not Jewish, man." I said, "What are you talking about? You don't look a Jew. You don't look. You don't dress like a Jew." I said, "No, I am a Jew, man. This is sick."
So let me tell you.
This is the thing, like me.
They see
okay?
the image.
I
It's the
say a lot
visage.
of things. I could be racist at times, okay? Okay? I have this little beard, okay? By the way, the Jewish guys like it.
I like it too.
Okay. But the thing is that it looks a little bit Muslim though. But this is the thing. You know, no one knows from my name that I'm Jewish. I can move anywhere I want in this country, and no one will bother me unless I let them know that I'm Jewish. Like you're saying, they don't know.
Let's continue, guys. I'm sorry, we have to continue. Mechila, I'm
They
sorry.
don't have to know. But you know what? During the
absolutely.
when the Jews fled Spain, the insurrection, Inquisition. When they left, the Jews that moved to the southeast kept certain traditions, but they didn't practice. They weren't practicing Jews. They didn't know they were Jews.
Let's continue, guys. Mechila, I'm sorry. We have to continue. Wait. Now we have a lecture to discuss. Rabotai, I'm sorry. So as we said, right, Rabotai, that a person who's away, very far away from the good side of life, the Torah will bother him and kill him. It kills him. It burns him inside. That's what it does.
There's no way to bring him to tshuva?
Oh, so that's the thing. Now he talked about that too, right? So we have to understand that. On the one hand, the Torah for him is like a poison. It's like a venom, you know. Goes inside, kills him. Can't take it, you know. So, but the interesting thing is like this, right? You have people like that who heard it one time, it was like a venom for them, but in the end, a few times, after a couple of years, you know, now they start to like it more.
Yeah.
Right? What's the reason for that? You know why? Because on the one hand, the Torah is for him a poison, but it also has a different power. The Torah, right? It has a power to straighten out the bent person who has a crooked, you know, nature. After a while, after he gets conditioned to it, it'll straighten him out.
Yeah.
It has the power to straighten everybody out. You know, anybody who hears the Torah, it straightens them out. By the way, this even applies to a Gentile.
Yeah.
You know, the intellectual Gentiles, they like to read the Bible. You know why? Because if they feel something good about that, you know, they get a good feeling out of it. Why is that? Because they know it's straight. You know, it's straight. Everything is in the Torah is straight. And even though they're not allowed to study the Talmud, whatever, but just by reading the Bible, 24 books of the Bible, that also straightens them out. Even though they don't understand why, they don't know why that works, but it does. You know, it does give them.
Is it
Yeah.
Why they're not allowed to study the Talmud is because it says terrible things about their...
No, it's because they rejected it. You know, they have to. The only way now a Gentile can study Talmud is to convert, because they rejected it. Once you reject it, you're not a part of that. You know, you're not in the club. You know,
It's evil.
It's a private club. You understand?
Talmud is evil.
They can say whatever they want,
It
but
says terrible things about their...
Well, that's what I'm
They're
saying.
God.
It's not that it's evil. It's an evil thing to a lot of people.
so Rabotai, the truth is, right, and even a good goy, you know, even a goy who's smart, he'll never say the Bible is evil. Chas v'shalom. He'll never say that. He understands that everything is over there is very, very, very good. A person who's very smart, a person who says like that the Bible is evil, he himself is evil. That's the problem. You understand? He himself is very, very evil. He has a problem, not the Bible. The Bible is very straight. Everything is very straight over there. You know, straight. So the power of the Torah is what? That it can take a person who's a rasha. And by the way, his intention is not even to learn Torah. He's not interested in learning Torah. He just happens to be there, like let's say a person who's working in the shul, happens to go around, and every once in a while, eavesdrops. A person that the Torah will straighten him out too. A person like that. Eventually. That's why, by the way, you should know, people who work in the shul sometimes, even though they didn't come here to work because of that reason, but because they're hurting Divrei Torah all the time, it's in the end it straightens them out. This guy who works over here, this non-Jew, he loves the Torah.
You're talking about the caretaker?
No, the guy who works here, the one,
The Uzbek guy.
Yeah.
Tajik.
He loves Torah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Georgian man.
No, this guy.
He sounds Egyptian.
You know why? Because he's been working here for 20 plus years, whatever, God knows what. And he knows how great it is to be, He loves the Jewish holidays, he loves the Torah. When I speak, he comes to hear me, he listens to me.
Right.
He sits there and listens to me. The power of the Torah is very great. It straightens out everybody, Even the one who's the most bent in the world, the most crooked, it has the power to straighten everybody out. Kodesh Baruch Hu should give you a great holiday with Hashem. Bracha v'sacha. Chag sameach. Chag kasher v'sameach.
I'm making coffee now. You tell me.